Okay, should be online now. If you go into my YouTube channel, you should be able to see it's available in the welcome message on Canva or in the first week. Yes. See if the audio level is just right, or too loud, or if the audio is running, no problem, right? Oh, it's actually on my channel. So you should be able to see the streaming now going on. Yeah. Oh, it's actually on my channel. So you should be able to see. Oh, audio is very noisy. Now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 testing. Now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 testing. Okay, should be fine now, I think. Yeah, a little bit of background noise because we are in a room with AC and everything. Okay, should be fine now, I think. Okay, now. So, after that you're done with this, we can start adding the reference into Blender, and then we can start modeling this from scratch. Okay, now if you read carefully the assignment description, you're going to see that for this assignment you need to do all the modeling yourself, okay, manually. You can either adopt the demo that I gave you over here, which is called hard surface modeling, and then after you're done with hard surface modeling, you're going to add a level subdivision surface to smooth out the form. Okay, or you can use sculpting, but when you use sculpting you need to manually retopologize or reduce the number of verts by redoing all of the mesh on top of the character, okay, and then produce a model for the character. Okay, you do not use any AI, you do not use any plug-in such as quad remesher to bypass all of this. Okay, and then if you do this, you become bipolar, you become a new generation of worker who doesn't know how to troubleshoot. Okay, this is what I discovered in recent years students don't learn and don't understand the basics, and when they are given a problem by AI, they won't be able to troubleshoot. So you pay the money to learn the basic skill, okay? And after that, you can use whatever the tools on other assignment, other courses if the lecturer allows, or in the future. But now you learn the basics, okay? So that you can troubleshoot yourself in the future, okay? Because I use AI in my workflow as well as a professional, but I discovered that if you use AI or be dependent on a plugins or tools when they change the mechanisms, or in the case of AI, if you don't know the basics, you won't be able to troubleshoot when problem arise. And that's why you here sitting here paying the money for the school, for me here to help you. So use your time wisely. Okay. Now we're going to delete this default cube. Okay, just a little bit of setup before we go into any of the modeling. And for those who use a laptop, you're going into preference over here, and you go into input, and there's a buttons over here called emulate numpad. Okay, what does it mean? It means that you can use the top numerical buttons over here to rotate the camera angle. Okay, click on these buttons, and then you can, now if you press on number 1 on your keyboard, okay, you're gonna see that it's switched to front orthographics. Okay, and number 3 will be switched to right orthographic. Ồ đúng nhỉ? So these are the two main views that we are going to use to model this character. Okay, and just to give you the menu over here, you're going into, if you go into the I'm not a menu guy because I grew up modeling in Blender with hotkeys, but I try to show you the menu so that if you have a problem finding or remember the keys, actually I should write down for you. One orthographic. 3 is right orthographic. Okay. And in the view over here, you should be able to see a sub menu. Sorry, not camera, but viewports. Okay, and the number over here corresponding to the view that you are going to get when you press the number. For example, front is number 1, back is control number 1. Okay, so you press control with the number over here, it inverts the view. Okay, later on we're going to see some of this because now we have no graphics over here, so it's very difficult to see. Now also Shift A, add object. Okay, Shift A. Okay, and you go into image reference. Ồ đúng nhỉ? Do it. Okay, download the picture from canvas and start adding the reference. This is what we do, reference, and then we go into downloads. Now you click on these little buttons for thumbnails, and you should be able to see the sketch 01 over here. Okay, now in your assignment, this figure, this reference should be replaced by your 2D sketches of the character. Okay, add, and then you're going to see that the picture is now added into the view, and we make sure that you are in front orthographic. It should say front orthographic over here, and it should not say user perspective. Okay, because user perspective meaning that when you add the picture, it's not corresponding to the x-axis or the red line over here, and the position is not at 0, 0, 0, 0. Okay, so you should make sure when you add the picture, the origin of the world is at 0, 0. Okay, by not moving any of the mouse or anything. Okay, just as simple as that. So this is the picture, and then you go into this little buttons over here, data, and you should be able to see a opacity button. Click on this and reduce this one to 0.5. You can type in, okay, because later on we're going to model on top of this 2D sketch, so we need the picture to be semi-transparent. Alright, and then we can rename this one, okay, front, and same thing we do for the right orthographic. If I press 3, okay, I go into right orthographics over here, and then what do I do to add the reference? Shift A, yes. You familiar with the hotkeys in Blender? Yes or no? Huh? Yes? Okay, so should I go faster? Faster? Yeah, can. Now, how many of you want me to go faster? 1, 2, 3, 4. Can I go faster? The majority of the class, no? This space okay for you? Okay, I give this space. Image reference, okay? And then opacity 0.5. Okay, always in the data over here. And we need to move the picture a little bit now. Okay, we go back to the front orthographic over here and click on the front over here. You should be able to see that it is in the center of the world. Okay, meaning that if you take a look at this, the z-axis, okay, is actually cutting in between this picture, but we want to move the middle, okay, or the center of the picture of the front view over here to the z-axis. Okay, because basically we want to model from one side and then mirror from the other side. Okay, so we need to place this picture like this. Alright, and then 3. Okay, I'm going to rename this one as right, and move this one to the middle like this. Okay, so now if you press on the middle mouse buttons, and I recommend when you model with Blender get a decent mouse, okay, with 3 buttons, okay, because otherwise you model with a touchpad, okay, it's going to be very messy. If I use the middle mouse button, I should be able to see something like this, okay. The 2 pictures corresponding to each other, okay, in the middle. At the intersection over here, you see the front view and the side view of the character. If you're done with this, raise your hand. Okay, the picture over there should be 50% opacity as well. Who cannot do this, raise your hand. Rung's going to come and help you. By the way, Rung is our TA. Okay? She's a friend of mine as well. And and also a graduate from DMS3 from the art department. Okay? Very prestigious. Anyone who cannot done, who's not done with this step, raise your hand. You'll can come and help you. No? Ồ, đâu nhờ tất cả. Okay? Let's go. Now, here come the difficult parts. Now, I understand your difficulty in modeling the character from reference, and as a result, I gave you this. Now, if we open PureRef, you can load up the base mesh colors over here, which is basically a guide of how you structure the topology, okay, or the organization of the mesh around the face of the character. Okay. Now, in other courses, in other situation, you can model a character with a sphere. Okay, you can put 2 sphere on top of that sphere in the middle, so the face would look more or less like this, right? And then you put another sphere over here. This could be the face of a character. But I would take my time to teach you the proper topology around the face. Now, I will explain about topology later, but basically the topology is the organization of mesh, so that when you animate the character, it follows the bone and the muscle of a real person. Because with this kind of topology or this kind of structure, when you animate the face, okay, it's going to cause deformation that makes the character doesn't look like a person. Okay. Now I know you didn't have any kind of anatomy training as well as, or do you? Do you have any kind of anatomy training or drawing training? No, right? So basically, I try to make this very simple by giving you this assignment, which is basically putting a stylized character. But here and there in the modeling, I try to give you an understanding of how the body, where the curve lies, and everything. And this is basically, if you dig deep into this topic, it's mostly about basically the anatomy of 3D. Okay? Meanwhile, you sketch the muscle and the bone, but in 3D is actually the topology. Okay? So we go into this. Now, after that you load up this reference over here, you can go right click on this and you can go into mode, and then you can click on always on top, All right. Doesn't need to download, should be available already. You search in the search bar in Windows. You should be able to find it. Just type in PureRef. Doesn't have it. This one have, right? Oh, okay. So they remove it, which is okay. Now, if you don't have this, you can just go into Blender, but it's gonna be a little bit here and there, you know. You can just load up another reference over here. Shift A, reference, and then load this one up, and then move this one over here, very far away from the. Okay, you can load this up over here and see the reference over here. Ổn không nhỉ? But the advantage of the of PureRef over here is that you can have the reference always on top. I'm gonna show, but then maybe later on, if you install it on your home computer, you can do this. Okay, resize this, and then you move it, so it's gonna stay floating on any apps that you have on the screen, and you can hover the mouse over here. With the middle mouse button, you can zoom in. Okay, you hover the mouse on the size of the PureRef over here, you can resize it. Okay, so it's very convenient. If you do like characters, you do like actor face modeling, or you do like even like digital painting. Okay, you need different, and you can load up many references over here, and you use it as a board of inspirations. And because when you model in 3D, you need like many reference from side view, top view, etc., etc. So this one is going to be very handy. Okay, but for now, okay, you can just use this for the demo today. Okay, now, and last but not least, before we model any of this, okay, I would go in Mesh Ref and rename this one as Mesh Ref. I would go in and select Control to select multiple. Okay, and then I'm going to press M, hover the mouse on the collections over here. M over here is for move, and it's going to create move to new collections, and you're going to click on this, and you call this ref create. Basically, it's going to create a new collections over here, or new folder, so that you can hide and unhide very quickly the reference when you model. Okay, and then most importantly, you click on this little buttons over here, and click on this selectable buttons. What does it mean? It means that when you see the reference over here, you just want to see them. You don't want to move them around, because when the reference changes, the coordinate of the 3D that you are going to add to the character is going to change as well. So you want to disable the selections over here. Alright, so now you can see, cannot touch, just like when you go to museum, right? See but no touching. Okay, ổn không nhỉ? Rotate, no problems. Okay, and then we can start modeling. Now Shift A, make sure you are in front view orthographic, okay, not side view. Okay, and then you Shift A, mesh, and we're going to add a plane onto this. Okay, and it's going to be at the origin of the world here, x0, y0, z0. Okay, and I give you a shortcut. R is rotate. Okay, and then there's a formula, R plus axis plus degree. For example, x 90 degree is going to rotate on the x-axis 90 degree, right? So let's do this. X 90 degree. Okay, and we have a plane over here. Ổn không nhỉ? Otherwise you can use the rotations buttons over here, which is fine, but it takes a little bit more time. Now when you model, make sure you are in orthographic mode. Okay, because if you are in perspective mode, when you add a new object, it's going to define all of the, it's going to be tilted. All right, now and then you can click on this little button, toggle X-ray. Okay, so that you can both see the mesh and the reference underneath it. Okay, and what we do now, we're going to subdivide this plane over here, divide it by 2. How can I subdivide? Tab, huh? No, not subdivision. Subdivision in edit mode, how can I do? Shift what? I? Control R. Okay, now we're going to press tab to go into edit mode. There's 2 levels of subdivision. You need to distinguish. Subdivision in modifier is not permanent. It means that you can always disable the modifier. You understand that, right? Okay, but for the edit mode over here, when you add subdivision, it's permanent. Okay, now when you go into edit mode, okay, zoom in, and then we press Control R. Okay, there's this yellow line over here happening in the middle. If you hover the mouse, release it. Okay, and it should add 1 line in the middle of the plane over here. Oh no, yeah. Basically, we divide this plane into 2, and we delete the left side of the geometry or the plane. Press X to delete, but you need to select box select, okay, 2 point up and down. Này dùng lắm á. Always model in orthographic view. Okay. Okay, done. Now people on this side, the obscure. Box select X. And we're going to click on delete vertices. Okay, 2 vertices is gone. Ổn không nhỉ? Yeah. Now why do we need to do this? Because basically now we're going to apply mirror modifier. So we model on one side, it's going to mirror on the other side. Because most of the time the character you're going to model is going to be symmetrized. Okay? Left side corresponding to right side. Even though in reality, human, 2 sides of the face is a little bit different. Okay. Later on, if you prefer, you can do like asymmetric characters when you apply. But most of the time, okay, the character that you model is going to be symmetrized. Okay. Now, tap, and then we go into modifier. We add in mirror. Okay, and now you should be able to see the remaining of the plane restore. Okay, and make sure the merge over here is on, and the clipping over here is on as well. Okay, because what does it mean, clipping? Let me show you. If you don't turn on clipping, okay, the points on one side, okay, when you try to move it to the other side, this is with clipping on, you cannot move it to the other side. Okay, but with clipping off, you can do this. And in 3D, this is to be avoided, right? Because this is what we do when we don't want something to happen, right? Same thing for 3D. Okay? Basically, it's called wrapping geometries, and you don't want this to happen because the geometry is supposed to, from one side, should not cross over to the other side, because that's when a lot of glitches is going to happen when you render. It's going to show glitches on texture. It's going to show a lot of problems. Okay, and the computer doesn't know which side of the geometry should it applies texture and lies. Okay, so that should be avoided. Remember this side. Okay, avoid it. Control Z. Now, clipping is on always when you add mirror modifier. These 2 buttons should be on. Okay, if this button is off, see what happens when I move these 2 points together. They don't automatically join together. Okay, and later on it's going to cause superfluous, okay, geometries or overlapping geometries. Okay, make sure this 2 button is on when you model. Alright, and now we can resize this to the size of the first geometry. Okay, so basically we're creating this first geometry over here. Resize it and we place it in the middle of the nostril, in between the nostril, okay, bottom of nose, and the lips, top of the lips, and then press tab. Okay, we can use the vertex select over here and start moving the points around. Okay, and then if we click on the, or we box select over here, okay, we can press E for extrude, and then we extrude the second one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Extrude 1, 2, 3, 4, and stop right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. When you extrude, you can use alternate between the R key and the E key. When you extrude, you rotate so that it follows the flow over here. Okay? And remember, when you extrude, you need to click on the left mouse button to confirm, because otherwise the extrusion is going to snap back to the original position, and it's causing what is called overlapping geometry. Okay, so I will demo this very quickly. Now, this is an operation of extrusions. When I extrude, okay, for some reason I'm not satisfied with this, and I don't click on left buttons, but I click on the right buttons, it's going to snap back over here. And when I try to move any of this geometry over here, you're going to see that actually inside there's a face that has been created. And if you leave many of these points overlapping to each other, when you UV unwrap, okay, when you do you make the material for the character, you're going to see glitches because of this. Okay, so if you ever happens to do any of these actions, there's a way to save you. Not Control Z, but you can select the whole mesh over here, and you go into mesh, and you clean up merge by distance. Very important. Okay, to avoid overlapping geometry. Okay, ổn không nhỉ? Yeah. Okay, once in a while when you model, okay, you hear my voice in the back of your mind saying merge by distance. Okay, you go into that, you find that function and do that. Okay, and it's available in the common mistake pages in I don't remember which week, but week 4, week 5, something like that. I'm gonna go back and explain this, but for now you remember that. All right, merge by distance. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and we stop right here because this trapezoid shape over here is a little bit particular, because it need to redirect the flow of the geometry or the topology to the bottom. Okay, extrude, and then you're going to use this and move it something like this. Alright, because now you need to redirect the flow to the bottom of the ellipse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, keep the number corresponding to the number that I have on the reference over here, because later on you need to connect the loop cuts around the eyes and the loop cuts around the mouth together. So this number needs to be the same. Okay? Otherwise, later on you have extra geometry and you won't be able to connect them together. Extrude one more. 1, 2, 3. Okay, at the bottoms. Okay, and then for the last one, you just move it because the merge is on and the clipping is on. It's going to merge together this geometry like this. Okay, and if you press on double G, is move edges or move geometry or slide. Actually, it's called slide geometry. Okay, for example, you want to move this one, just select double G and move this one. Okay, same. Slide here means that it doesn't change basically the height of the geometry, but if you move with the M buttons over here, or you move with the normal selections over here, G, you're gonna see that it changes the shape of the model. Ồ đúng nhờ. No. Phương ơi, hẹp. Four on top, one in the middle to connect, 3 at the bottom. Okay. Now avoid, make sure that this shape over here is not a triangle. It needs to be a trapezoid. Alright, rectangle. Because later on I'm going to explain that one rule in keeping the topology good is everything must made up of 4 vertices. Everything. Because 4 is easier for UV unwrapping. Okay? 4 over here is called a quad. Okay? And 3 over here is called a trees. Any faces that is made up of 3 points is called trees. Every face is made up of 4 is called quads. And in ideal modeling, everything should be made up of quads instead of trees. Yeah. Okay, and we continue to model this part. This shape is particular as well, so pay attention. We're going to extrude over here, extrude this one out, but we're going to move this point over here so that it forms basically a triangle shape, but in reality this one is a quad shape. Oh no, yeah, because this shape is supposed to be the bottom of the nose over here. If you take a look at it, for Europeans people, this is actually sometimes it's actually a triangle, but most of the time, like for Asian like us, it's going to be a little bit rounded. Okay, basically we making the base of the nose. All right. Okay, and from here we have 2 faces that we can extrude. So select this top over here. Alright, 3 points, and we extrude the red parts, which is the bones, the main bones of the nose. Okay. E. One, 2, okay, and I give you another tips over here. You want to keep this shape, the lines over here, the edges over here, flat, because for the very simple reason that the directions or the rotation of an edge should follow the directions of the muscle, and as a result over here we need to flatten it out, because if I continue to extrude this, you're gonna see that the more I extrude, okay, and if I try to extrude over here, it's going to look very weird, and we want to avoid this kind of extrusion. Okay, because it will be very difficult to control the flow of the geometry. We need to flatten out the edges over here before we extrude. Rotations plus axis, and if you plus 0, for example, is actually going to flatten out the edges. Okay, R X 0, sorry, RY0, RZ0, RS. Sorry. Scale is not rotation but scale. S for scale. And if you put that on an axis, and if plus 0 is going to basically flatten the edge of the geometry altogether. Okay. SX0 SZ0. Okay. Because basically if you flatten this edge on the z-axis is going to be scale them down to the point that is going to actually flatten the edges over here. Okay, that's a trick, and we want to always keep this edges flat before we extrude. So okay, and please notice that I put the points or the division of this main loop cuts of the nose in a place, okay, corresponding to the beginning of the eyes over here. Okay, because later on I want to be able to extrude a face that covering the loop cuts around the eyes basically. E okay, and from here I start extrude 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 and 3 at the bottom, 1 in the middle over here, 7 in total. Alright, and remember that when I do this I always follow the eyes over here. Okay, sorry for the sketchy lines over here, but basically you get the ideas. Okay, and this one should be the trapezoid shape when the geometry actually changes. 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, change directions. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and for the last bit of the eyes over here, I can either extrude one more and put them like this. Okay, put them very close to each other like this. Okay, and how to join geometry? Have you learned about this? How to join them together or merge geometry together? All right. So we select the two adjacent, okay, or the two geometry that we want, two vertices we want to join together, merge together. We will press M for merge. At center, okay, and this one at center as well. So you see now I have a complete loop cuts around the eye of the character. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we make all of this. We place all of this basic shapes so that later on we can connect them together to create a complete mesh for the face of the character. Okay, another way you can, when you see this situation, when you, I'm going to delete this one very quickly, you see a gap over here and you want to join them together, you can do this very quickly by select 1, 2, holding Shift A, select multiple points over here, multiple vertices, and you press F for fill. It's going to fill in with a face. Alright. So now after you're done with the green, red, and blue part of the base mesh, we do the less fun part, but it's actually easier part, which is connecting all the dots together. Alright. Now you're gonna see that there's a line, okay, on an edge that go from the bottoms of the eyes over here around the nose and then continue like this. Okay, so we're going to do the same, but make sure that, okay, the number of points you're going to extrude from here is going to basically guarantee that a quad is going to be created. So we're going to imagine now this one is 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, one quads over here, right? And then we extrude one time because 1, 2, 3, 4, and we press F. It's going to fill in a mesh. Được không nhỉ? Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Easy. Yeah. Okay, so if I fill in the gap over here, what is the key I press to fill? F. Okay, when your line is broken, you press F as well. Okay, thing doesn't go right, Control Z, F, F, fill, F, F, F. Okay, look like spider. Okay, spider web. I can and do the same for this part as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. F, 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 okay, and over here extrude one more loop cuts over here because later on we're going to to extrude the cheek of the character. Okay, something like this. Done. Not yet. Now, you might find this is manual work, okay, but this is the basic way you learn how to redirect geometry on an organic shape and also the topology of the face. So if you ever sculpt a character, for example, later you know now that you need the loop cuts around the mouth, And you need to look at around the nose first. So when you reach a wall jar, you know where to start first. Okay? After you're done with all these look cuts, you can start adding geometry elsewhere. Okay?
Okay, we got 15 minutes until the end of the lab session today. The rest of the modeling of the character Hương will send to you via Canvas announcement. Yeah, it's a full about 6 hours, 5-6 hours of video material from previous semester that you can use to model the whole character. And please do this because it's very good exercise for you to manipulate vertices and geometry. Okay. For now, I'm going to just do a quick extrusion of the face over here, so you know where we're going with this shape, these flat shapes. Okay. Now, after you're done with this face over here, when you turn off, I can actually turn off this one. Save. When I turn off the reference over here, you should be able to see, and the X-ray over here, you should be able to see a flat surface. There's no weird geometry. Weird means that overlapping geometries or anything that had a hash cross on top of it. It means there's overlapping geometries or geometry with a different colors. Okay, or face that has different colors, and this one doesn't have any of those. Okay, it looks like a fog face at the moment. But if we go into 3 over here, we turn on the ref. Now this is why we're going to model it in orthographic view, because basically we're going to use this reference over here to extrude or move, actually pull the face, pull the geometry out to correspond with the detail of the face over here. Now I'm going into tab over here, and I'm going to select the first edges. Okay, and I press 3. There's a buttons over here called proportional editing. Click on this buttons. What it does, and make sure this one is smooth. Okay, what it does is basically when you move or do anything with one of this geometry with this button on, it's going to affect the adjacent geometries. So I'm going to press G to move this one, and basically you're gonna see that there's a circle here, which is the area of influence. So how much of influence when I move this geometry over here is going to have on the nearby geometries, or the geometry that falls under this circle. Alright, so now if I pull this one, you're going to see that. Okay, I'm going to move this one to the extreme of the nose over here, something like this. Now if we rotate, we have this kind of extrusions. Okay, and then we can start placing the geometry according to the sketches over here. The first line over here, should be this one over here. Okay, play this one over here, and the nose. Okay, and then this one should be on the bottom of the nose over here. Okay, and then accordingly we move back the geometry a little bit, the other geometry a little bit. Doesn't need to be precise, okay, but basically you want to make everything parallel to each other, because if you take a look at most of the topology from side view, it's going to be more or less something like this. So all the lines going to go from the top. Okay, and then it's going to basically divide all the faces. Together or something like this. Okay, so you want to make sure that all this line over here is parallel to each other. Move this one backward a little bit. Back. Alright, now my sketch over here doesn't really reflect it, but the bottom of the lips, okay, I'm going to do a very quick lips over here. It should go inside a little bit, okay, and then there should be a, especially for down, the chin should go out, okay, and you take a look at this. So this part over here is actually have to go inside a little bit and go out. Okay. So okay, and on the eyes over here, we basically going to place and we want to move the geometry in a way that the dimensions of this geometry corresponding to each other or equal to each other. Okay, and we want to avoid geometry that or faces that look too big compared to others. Okay, if I turn on the ref now, turn off the ref now, this is what we have. Okay, if I continue to move this one, we're creating basically a small mask over here for the characters. Okay, and of course it looks like a monkey now. It's not perfect, but I can always move this geometry and for the nose over here, okay, very important for the cheekbone over here. This is this line over here. If you touch your face, this is where the cheekbone is going to be. So if your character is an adult, you need to make the cheekbone a little bit more present. And to do that, you need to extrude this, not extrude, but move this one outside a little bit. Okay. So, but for children, the muscle and the feature of the character will not be that present. Okay. But you modeling, for example, elder people, etc. Okay, that feature need to be more present, and I'm going to add a subdiv over here so that you see where we're going with this. For the renders, keep them at 2, okay, and always add shade smooth to this character. And this one is not joined together, we join them together. Okay. Okay. Not perfect, okay, but in this step what you want to do is just keeping this character, the number of geometry low, and also the surface of the character here smooth without any weird shape or weird crease happening on the characters over here. Okay, and the cheekbones, I'm going to increase it a little bit, something like this. And always mesh, clean up, merge by distance. Okay, so that we delete unnecessary geometry that we don't need. And a tips over here, when you work with modifiers and you see that this line over here is overlapping with the mesh, you can click on this button on catch. It's going to snap it on the geometry over here, so it's easier for you to see and manipulate. Oh no, yeah. Okay, so this is just the very basic of face modeling. It's not perfect. It's going to require you to sit down and watch the rest of the tutorial, okay, that I did. But if you follow the tutorial and you do the exercise, you'll be able to get a base mesh of the character for the first presentations. And also on top of that, you can build up other accessory hairs, and I'm going to send you a tutorial on how to model hairs, accessory, etc., etc. as well. Okay, but you get the basic from here, and then you can apply it to other characters, because for a down character or other character, it's just a matter of scaling, okay, on X and Y and Z. But the base mesh, the way geometry flow, this is it. Ổn không nhỉ? Okay. So, any last question before we go? I know we a little bit people outside waiting, but any last question? No? Okay, so I declare this dismissed for today. First last sessions, and I see you tomorrow for the lecture, where I'm going to explain more about the cost and also a little bit about character design, how you can come up with strategy to design your Vietnamese antidote. Hold on, yeah. Yeah? Okay. Thank you for your time and bye bye. Don't turn off the PC, huh? Just log out. If you from the first group and you feel like the demo is too fast, you can sit down here and redo it with the second group, no problem. Okay? Now, quick.